The Galactic Council had always seen humans as a weak species, compared to the powerful warriors of the galaxy, the massive Kroth warriors with their 4 arms, the armored Skalvax with their bulletproof skin, or the energy-wielding Vorteri. Humans seemed fragile. They had no natural weapons, no armored bodies, and no special abilities. When the Xalari Dominion, one of the largest military forces in the galaxy, decided to accept humans into their army, most aliens thought it was a joke. Humans had no place in war, they believed. They were too soft, too slow, too weak. Commander Thalvek, a high-ranking Xalari officer, looked at the new human recruits with disappointment. His red eyes scanned the group standing before him in the training field. There were about 30 of them, men and women of different sizes, all standing straight, waiting for orders. Thalvek's blue-scaled face twisted in a sneer. "These are the warriors from Earth," he said loudly, so everyone could hear. "They look like they would break after a single punch." Some of the other alien soldiers laughed. The Xalari were tall, strong, and battle-hardened. They had spent centuries fighting wars against brutal enemies. To them, humans were nothing more than soft-skinned creatures with weak bones. But the humans said nothing. They didn't flinch, didn't react. They simply stood there, their faces calm. A Xalari officer, Captain Drevok, stepped forward. He was nearly 8 feet tall, his body covered in thick armor-like skin. He carried a heavy plasma rifle in one hand, something that would take 2 humans to lift. "You will not fight in the front lines," Drevok told them. "The Dominion does not waste resources. You will work as engineers, medics, and supply runners. That is where your kind belongs." A human soldier, Mark, exchanged a glance with his squadmate, Lewis. Neither of them spoke, but the look said everything. They had expected this. From the moment humanity had made contact with the galactic community, they had been underestimated. Other species saw their size, their lack of natural weapons, and assumed they were weak. But humans knew the truth. They had spent centuries fighting wars on their own planet. They had survived plagues, disasters, and countless battles. Unlike many alien species, they did not evolve in a peaceful environment. Earth had been a world of danger, and humanity had learned how to fight, how to adapt, and most importantly, how to survive. But now, they had to prove it. "Training begins tomorrow," Thalvek announced, his voice full of doubt. "If you survive." The other aliens laughed again, but the humans simply nodded. They had nothing to prove with words. They would show their strength in action. Tomorrow, the real test would begin. The battlefield was nothing like the training grounds. Thick smoke covered the ruined outpost, and the sky burned with the glow of plasma fire. Explosions shook the ground as Dominion forces clashed with the monstrous Kragath warriors. The enemy was relentless. Giant beasts with armored hides, standing over 9 feet tall, their claws sharp enough to tear through metal. They roared as they charged, smashing through barricades and crushing anything in their path. In the middle of the chaos, Mark and his squad stood waiting. Except they weren't fighting. They had been ordered to stay back. "You will not engage in combat," Captain Drevok had told them earlier. "Humans are too fragile for a real battle." Now, as the Kragath forces pushed forward, the human soldiers stood behind the main defense lines, watching. The Xalari commanders had assigned them to support roles, carrying supplies, repairing damaged equipment, and treating the wounded. They were not allowed to hold weapons, not even sidearms. Mark clenched his fists as he watched a squad of Dominion soldiers get torn apart by the Kragath. The alien warriors fought with brute strength, ripping through Xalari armor as if it were paper. Even with plasma rifles and heavy artillery, the Dominion forces struggled to hold their ground. "This is insane," Lewis muttered. "We could help." Hannah, another human soldier, nodded. "We should be out there, not standing around." But orders were orders. For hours, they did as they were told, running supplies to soldiers who barely acknowledged them. fixing damaged weapons, and pulling injured fighters back to safety. All the while, they listened to the commanders shouting over the comms. "Hold the line. The Kragath are pushing through Sector 4. We need reinforcements now." It was clear that the Dominion forces were losing. Then, everything went wrong. A massive explosion ripped through the command center, sending shockwaves across the battlefield. The Xalari officers inside were killed instantly. Panic spread through the Dominion forces as they lost coordination. Without leadership, the soldiers hesitated, and in that moment of weakness, the Kragath pushed forward. The front lines collapsed. Mark turned to see dozens of Kragath warriors storming toward their position. The aliens who had mocked them, who had called them weak, were now running in the opposite direction, retreating. "No orders," Lewis said, breathing hard. "No command." "Then we take control," Mark said. The other humans looked at him, and he saw the same thought in their eyes. They had been treated like they didn't belong, like they weren't real soldiers. This was their chance to prove everyone wrong. Mark grabbed a fallen plasma rifle from a dead Dominion soldier. "If they won't let us fight," he said, "then we fight anyway." Without hesitation, the humans armed themselves, taking weapons from the battlefield. They moved fast, setting up a defensive position among the wreckage. The Kragath charged, expecting an easy kill. But humans did not fight like the Xalari. They didn't rely on strength alone. They relied on tactics. Hannah threw an explosive charge at a fallen transport, creating a massive fireball that forced the Kragath to slow down. Lewis and two others climbed to higher ground, using sniper rifles to take down enemy warriors with precise headshots. Mark and the rest used cover, moving quickly, never staying in one place too long. They fought smart, using teamwork and strategy instead of brute force. And it worked. The Kragath hesitated for the first time. They had expected an easy fight. Instead, they were being cut down one by one. By the time Dominion reinforcements arrived, the battlefield was littered with the bodies of fallen Kragath. The humans had held the line. The Xalari officers stared in shock. No one had expected this. No one had believed humans could fight. But now, they had no choice. The truth was clear. Humans were not weak. And this war had just changed forever. ###**** Part 3. The First Shock. A Fight for Survival ****. The battlefield was silent for the first time in hours. Smoke rose from burning wreckage, and the bodies of Kragath warriors lay scattered across the ground. The smell of scorched metal and blood filled the air. Mark lowered his plasma rifle, breathing heavily. His muscles ached, and sweat dripped down his face. Around him, his squad stood in silence, their weapons still gripped tightly. They had survived. And they had won. But instead of cheers, they were met with cold stares. Xalari reinforcements had arrived, led by Commander Thalvek himself. His red eyes scanned the battlefield, taking in the dead Kragath, the burning debris, and the human soldiers still standing. Slowly, he walked toward them, his blue-scaled face unreadable. Mark stepped forward, meeting the commander's gaze. He expected words of recognition, maybe even a thank you. Instead, Thalvek's voice was sharp. "Who gave you permission to fight?" The question stunned them. Lewis let out a breath. "Are you serious?" Hannah frowned. "We just saved your forces from getting wiped out." Thalvek's expression didn't change. "You disobeyed orders," he said. "You were not authorized to engage in battle." Mark clenched his fists. "If we hadn't fought, your soldiers would be dead," he said. "You lost command. You lost control. Someone had to step up." Murmurs spread among the Dominion soldiers. Some of them looked uncertain. Others, like Captain Drevuk, glared at the humans with clear resentment. Thalvek stared at Mark for a long moment. Then, without another word, he turned to his officers. "Gather the wounded," he ordered. "Prepare for transport." The humans stood there, waiting for something, acknowledgement, maybe even respect. But none came. That Salary treated them like they were invisible, walking past them, as if they hadn't just held the line against the Kragath. Mark exhaled slowly. He should have expected this. They won't admit it, Lewis muttered. But they're scared. Hannah nodded. They don't want to believe that we're better than they thought. Mark looked at the battlefield once more. The truth was right in front of them. The humans had proven themselves. Now they just had to make the rest of the galaxy see it too. Hashtag, 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 asterisk, asterisk. 2 days later, asterisk, asterisk. Back at the Dominion military base, the news of what happened spread fast. Whispers filled the halls. The Kragath had been stopped, not by the elite Salary forces, but by a group of humans. For the first time, some alien soldiers began to question what they had always believed. Did you hear? One soldier whispered to another. The humans held an entire outpost by themselves. They cheated, another said. Had to be luck. But not everyone believed that. Some of the younger recruits watched the humans with something different in their eyes. Not hatred, not disgust. Curiosity. But the Salary commanders were not impressed. In the main war chamber, Commander Thulvek stood before the Dominion High Council, his expression cold. The humans were reckless, he said. They disobeyed orders. They cannot be trusted in real combat. One of the council members, an old and battle-worn Salary, tapped his claws against the table. Yet they succeeded where you failed. Thulvek's jaw tightened. He didn't respond. Another council member spoke. Perhaps we underestimated them, she said. Perhaps humans are more capable than we believed. Thulvek's eyes darkened. They are undisciplined. They do not fight like us. They lack the strength of true warriors. The older council member leaned forward. Strength is not only in the body, Commander. It is in the mind. The humans have both. A long silence filled the chamber. Finally, the council made their decision. The humans will continue their service, the leader said, and we will watch them closely. Thulvek nodded, but his expression remained hard. He did not like this. He did not trust them. And deep down, he feared what the humans might become. Hashtag, 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 asterisk, asterisk, meanwhile. Asterisk, asterisk. Mark and his squad sat in the barracks, cleaning their weapons. They had been given no rewards, no promotions, no recognition. But they didn't need it. Because they knew the truth. They had made the first crack in the illusion of human weakness. And soon, the galaxy would know it too. Hashtag, 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 asterisk, asterisk, part 5. The promotion no one wanted to give, asterisk, asterisk. The war on Tarkus V had changed everything. The humans had taken control when the Salary leadership collapsed. They had turned a losing battle into a victory. The Dominion army still stood because of them. But even after proving themselves, the humans were not given medals or celebrations. Instead, they were called to a meeting. Mark, Lewis, and Hannah stood in the war chamber, facing a group of high-ranking Salary officers. Some of them still had bandages from the battle. Commander Thulvek sat in the center, his red eyes cold as always. For a long moment, no one spoke. Finally, one of the officers broke the silence. You disobeyed orders. His voice was sharp. You took command without permission. Lewis scoffed. You were all dead or unconscious. The officer's eyes narrowed. That does not change protocol. Mark exhaled slowly, controlling his anger. What would you have preferred? He asked. That we stand there and watch your soldiers get slaughtered. Another officer, an older Salary with scars across his face, leaned forward. Unlike the others, he didn't look angry. He looked curious. You fought well, he admitted. Your strategies saved this base. Mark exchanged a glance with his squad. Finally, someone was acknowledging the truth. But Thulvek wasn't ready to accept it. They were reckless, he said. They fight like undisciplined savages. They have no place leading Dominion forces. The scared officer raised an eyebrow. And yet, they succeeded where you failed. Thulvek's jaw tightened. He hated this. Hannah crossed her arms. "Let me guess," she said. "You don't want to admit that a bunch of weak humans did something better than you." The room fell silent. Some of the salary officers shifted uncomfortably. Finally, the leader of the council, an older salary with deep golden eyes, spoke. "Like it or not," he said, "the humans have earned recognition." He turned his gaze to Mark. "We do not grant battlefield promotions lightly, but under the circumstances, it is necessary." Mark stiffened. "A promotion?" The officer nodded. "You will be given official command over a unit." For a moment, none of the humans spoke. They had expected punishment, not this. Lewis smirked. "So let me get this straight," he said. "You didn't want us to fight. You ignored us, insulted us, and treated us like we didn't belong." He leaned forward. "And now you want us to lead your soldiers." Thalvik's expression darkened. He hated every word of it. But the order had been given. Like it or not, humans were now part of the war in a way no one had expected. ###****. The first mission as commanders ****. A week later, Mark's squad was officially assigned their own unit. But the problems didn't stop. The Dominion soldiers didn't trust them. Their unit was a mix of different alien species, Zelari, Skalvax, and a few others. They followed orders, but their expressions were filled with doubt. "They don't respect us," Hannah muttered. Mark nodded. "Then we'll make them." Their first mission was a patrol through enemy territory, a simple assignment. But in war, nothing stayed simple for long. ###*****. The ambush *****. The attack came without warning. Kragath forces exploded from the sand, emerging from underground tunnels. Plasma fire rained down, and screams filled the air. The Dominion soldiers panicked. The salary officers had trained them to fight in straight lines with rigid formations. But the Kragath didn't fight like that. They fought dirty. Mark didn't hesitate. "Break formation," he shouted. "Use cover. Move fast. Don't stay in one place." Some of the aliens hesitated. This was not how they had been trained. But the humans moved first. Lewis and Hannah took high ground, picking off Kragath from a distance. The rest of the squad spread out, using speed and tactics instead of brute force. Slowly, the Dominion soldiers followed their lead. And once again, the humans turned a slaughter into a victory. When the battle was over, the Dominion troops stared at them. But this time, it wasn't doubt in their eyes. It was respect. Mark wiped blood from his face and looked at them. "Still think we're weak?" No one answered. Because now, they knew the truth. And this was only the beginning. The humans had proven themselves again and again. But no matter how many victories they won, that salary high command still saw them as outsiders. Even with their battlefield promotions, Mark and his squad were treated as an experiment, an anomaly that the Dominion refused to fully accept. But that was about to change, because the next battle would not just be about survival. It would decide the fate of the entire war. The Dominion had received intelligence that the Kragath were preparing a massive assault on a critical outpost, Outpost K7. If it fell, the entire sector would be lost. And yet, the salary commanders hesitated. "This is suicide," Thalvik said, his voice firm. "We do not have the numbers to hold the outpost." The Dominion Council sat in silence. They had lost too many battles, too many soldiers. But Mark stood up. "Then let us handle it." All eyes turned to him. Thalvik scoffed. "You think a handful of humans can succeed where entire legions have failed?" Mark didn't flinch. "We won at Tarkus 5. We held the line when your forces fell. Give us command of this battle, and we will do it again." The council members whispered among themselves. Finally, the old council leader spoke. "Very well," he said. "The humans will take command of Outpost K7. Thalvik's eyes burned with anger. He hated this, but orders were orders. Mark nodded. "We won't let you down. ###**** preparing for war ****. Mark, Lewis, and Hannah moved fast. They had only a few days to prepare the outpost before the Kragath attack. Instead of using traditional Dominion strategies, they adapted. They reinforced choke points. They set up traps. They trained the soldiers to fight using human tactics, fast, unpredictable, and brutal. At first, the Dominion soldiers resisted, but as the days passed, they saw the logic in human strategy. They stopped questioning orders. They started trusting their new leaders. And when the Kragath finally came, they were ready. ###*****. The battle begins *****. The first wave of Kragath warriors stormed the outpost, their monstrous bodies charging forward like a tidal wave of destruction. But the humans had prepared for this. The moment the enemy reached the gates, explosive traps detonated, tearing through the Kragath ranks. The surviving ones were met with sniper fire from Lewis and his team. The battle raged for hours. Plasma fire filled the battle for Outpost K7 had changed everything. For the first time in Dominion history, humans were not just seen as foot soldiers or workers. They were warriors, leaders, who had done what no other species could. But victory had a price. The Kragath were not defeated. They had suffered a major loss, but they were still a threat. And now they saw humans as their greatest enemy. Mark, Lewis, and Hannah knew that the war wasn't over. It was only beginning. A week after the battle, Mark and his squad were summoned to the Dominion High Command. This time, things were different. Instead of scowls and insults, the Salary officers looked at them with something else. Respect. The council leader, his golden eyes unreadable, studied them for a long moment before speaking. "You have done the impossible," he said. "You have proven your worth in battle." Thalvek stood beside him, still injured, his pride wounded even more than his body. But even he could not deny the truth. "The Dominion needs soldiers like you," the council leader continued. "We need human warriors." Mark remained silent, waiting. Finally, the leader leaned forward. "We are offering you command of your own legion." The room fell silent. Even Lewis, always ready with a joke, looked stunned. Hannah was the first to speak. "You mean an entire human army?" The council leader nodded. "Yes, a force made up of your kind, trained in your methods, led by you." Mark exhaled slowly. This was it. This was the moment they had been fighting for. But there was one thing he needed to know. He looked straight at the council leader. "Are we still just an experiment to you?" The old Salary's expression did not change. "No," he said simply. "You are the future." Over the next few months, everything changed. Humans from all across the Dominion were brought together. Soldiers, engineers, strategists. Every human who had been ignored or underestimated was now given a purpose. They trained harder than ever. They studied enemy tactics, improved their weapons, and created strategies no other species could match. The Dominion soldiers, once skeptical, now watched in awe. The humans were not just strong. They were dangerous. And when the Kragath attacked again, the human legion was ready. The Kragath launched a full-scale assault on a Dominion core world, one of the most important planets in the Empire. If it fell, the war would be lost. This time, humans were not pushed to the back. They were leading the charge. Mark and his squad stood at the front lines, surrounded by thousands of human soldiers. The battlefield stretched for miles, the sky filled with warships, explosions lighting up the horizon. But this was different from every battle before. This time, they were not just fighting for survival. They were fighting for their place in the galaxy. Louis smirked, gripping his rifle, ready to show them what humans can really do. Mark smiled. "Let's finish this." The battle was brutal. The Kragath came in endless waves, their monstrous forms tearing through defenses. The Dominion forces held the line, but it was the humans who turned the tide. They moved like no other army. They used speed, creativity, and sheer determination. They adapted to every attack, countered every move, and fought with a ferocity the Kraggoth had never seen before. And in the end, they won. The Kraggoth forces were destroyed. Their invasion was stopped. The war was over. After the battle, the Dominion High Command made it official. Humans were no longer just soldiers in the Dominion Army. They were commanders, strategists, and warriors respected across the galaxy. Mark and his squad stood before a massive crowd of Dominion soldiers, Tal'ari, Skaldex, and dozens of other species. And as one, they all raised their fists, the human gesture of respect. Humans had once been seen as weak. Now they were legends. And this was only the beginning.